The grand ballroom of the Obsidian Hotel was a cathedral of excess, dripping with crystal chandeliers that hummed under the weight of 1,000 flickering candles. It was the annual Founders Gala, an event where the air usually smelled of expensive perfume and old money. But tonight, the air was sour. It smelled of spilled Cabernet and the sharp, acidic scent of a dying reputation. At the center of the room stood Caleb, the CEO of the world's most disruptive tech conglomerate. He was a vision of steady, quiet power, dressed in a deep navy bespoke tuxedo. The fabric was so dark it looked like the midnight sky, a sharp contrast to the chaotic energy swirling around him. Directly in front of him was Cassandra, the sister of the city's most feared billionaire. She was draped in a bold red floor-length gown that shimmered like a forest fire under the lights. In her hand, she held a crystal glass, tilted at a cruel angle, dark. Staining wine was currently dripping from the lapel of Caleb's navy jacket, pooling onto the white marble floor like a wound. "Oh, I am so sorry," Cassandra lied, her voice a shrill, mocking song that echoed off the high ceilings. "I forgot that the help wasn't supposed to stand so close to the guest list. But then again, a man who still wears a digital watch probably shouldn't be at a gala with real icons, should he?" Behind her, Sterling, her brother and head of the Dynasty, let out a low, rumbling chuckle. He adjusted his red silk pocket square, his eyes tracking the wine as it ruined Caleb's clothes. He didn't see a CEO. He saw an ant he was about to crush under a $2,000 leather shoe. The justice debt had been mounting since Caleb first arrived at the hotel. He had pulled up in his Tesla Model S, a sleek machine that focused on efficiency over ego. Sterling had been standing at the valet stand, leaning against a gold-plated SUV. "Move that electric toy to the back, Caleb." Sterling had barked, loud enough for the arriving socialites to hear. "This lot is for heritage brands, not startup gimmicks. Try the public garage 3 blocks down. The walk will give you time to think about why you don't belong here." Caleb had simply nodded, his face a mask of calm, and moved his car. He walked the 3 blocks in the humidity, entering the gala through the main doors only to find that his name had been accidentally left off the VIP seating chart. Cassandra had spent the last hour ensuring Caleb's humiliation was a public spectacle. She had followed him from the bar to the buffet, whispering loud enough for the surrounding governors and celebrities to hear. "Look at him," she'd sneered, gesturing with her wine glass. "He thinks because he has a few patents, he can sit at the same table as the Sterling Dynasty. He's a glorified mechanic in a rental suit. Now," with the wine soaking into Caleb's navy jacket, Cassandra leaned in close, her breath smelling of grapes and malice. "You're an eyesore, Caleb. My brother owns the banks that fund your research. He owns the lobbyists that protect your patents. You are a footnote in our ledger. Now, go find a towel and get out of our sight before I have security throw you out for being a public nuisance." Sterling stepped forward, his red pocket square practically glowing. "She's right. We're pulling the Sterling line of credit tonight. By tomorrow morning, your empire won't even have enough cash to pay the janitors. Consider that wine a parting gift." Caleb didn't wipe the wine away. He didn't flinch. He looked at the heavy gold clock above the ballroom doors. 9:14 p.m. The justice debt was at its peak. The arrogance of the siblings in red had reached the point of no return. "Are you finished?" Caleb asked, his voice a calm, deep navy frequency that seemed to silence the entire room. "We're finished with you," Cassandra laughed, turning her back to him to address the crowd. "Does everyone see this? This is what happens when you let a nobody into a palace." Caleb didn't reach for a napkin. He reached into the inner pocket of his deep navy tuxedo, pulling out a slim, matte black smartphone. The red wine on his lapel glistened under the chandeliers, but he wore the stain like a badge of office. "Sterling," Caleb said, his voice cutting through the laughter like a cold wind. "You spent so much time talking about heritage and legacy that you've forgotten the most basic rule of real estate. He who owns the land owns the king." Sterling smirked, adjusting his red silk pocket square with a flick of his wrist. "My family has owned the land this hotel stands on for 80 years, boy. We own the dirt, the air, and the bank that holds your mortgage. You're talking to a ghost." "You used to own the land," Caleb corrected, his thumb swiping across his screen. But your family's holding company, Sterling Heritage Group, took out a massive high-interest loan last quarter to cover your losses in the crypto crash. You used the land title of this very hotel and 4 of your largest manufacturing hubs as collateral. Cassandra's mocking grin faltered. She clutched her wine glass tighter, her bold red gown suddenly looking too bright, too loud for the shifting atmosphere. That's a private institutional loan. It's handled by a Swiss conglomerate. You couldn't even get past their secretary. I didn't need to get past the secretary, Caleb said, turning the phone screen toward them. It showed a digital certificate of acquisition. The Swiss conglomerate sold that debt package 3 hours ago. The buyer was Caleb's venture holdings. Sterling, you don't know the Swiss anymore. You owe me. A ripple of panicked whispers surged through the ballroom. The socialites who had been laughing with Cassandra seconds ago now stepped back, physically distancing themselves from the Dynasty that was suddenly standing on hollow ground. This is a stunt. Sterling roared, his face turning a shade of purple that matched the wine on Caleb's jacket. The loan isn't due for another 5 years. You can't touch us. Normally, you'd be right, Caleb said, stepping forward until he was inches from Sterling's face. But Clause 14B of your own contract, the reputational integrity clause, states that if a member of the Sterling board or their immediate family is involved in a public act of malicious harassment that is captured on film, the loan is subject to immediate acceleration. Your sister just poured wine on the note holder in front of 300 witnesses and 20 security cameras. The color drained from Cassandra's face. She looked up at the ballroom cameras, realizing they weren't just for security. They were recording her own downfall. I'm calling a default Sterling. Caleb's voice was like ice. As of 90 seconds ago, I've seized the collateral. This hotel? It's mine. Your manufacturing hubs? Mine. The house you live in? It's technically on my balance sheet now. The double doors of the ballroom burst open. A fleet of black Tesla Model S sedans and 2024 black Chevy Suburbans had pulled up to the front of the hotel. A team of legal auditors and private security in navy blue uniforms marched into the room. Sterling, the lead auditor said, ignoring the billionaire and looking at Caleb. The locks on the Sterling executive suites have been changed. The accounts are frozen for the transition. The ultimate humiliation came when Caleb looked at Cassandra. You said I was a help? Well, the help is giving you 5 minutes to leave my hotel. Leave the glass, Cassandra. You've spilled enough tonight. The crowd watched in stunned silence as the Dynasty was escorted out of their own gala. Sterling tripped on the white marble, his red pocket square falling to the floor, where it was stepped on by the very guests who had cheered him an hour ago. Cassandra, her red dress now looking like a symbol of her ruin, tried to hide her face from the cameras, but the flashbulbs were relentless. Caleb stood at the center of the room, the wine stain still on his navy suit. He didn't need to change. He looked at the remaining guests, the governors, the CEOs, the icons. The gala will continue, Caleb announced calmly. But from now on, the dress code is a little more professional. By dawn, the Sterling name was being scrubbed from the building's entrance. The $2.4 billion empire hadn't just collapsed, it had been absorbed. Caleb drove away in his Tesla, the digital watch on his wrist ticking away the first seconds of a new era.